Alright, on your review, you've got to put your phones away, computers away.
You did these two, I think.
Yep. Okay, let's go through whatever questions we want to see you go over, have questions about. Jacob on the way.
Number one and number
Alright, so starting on the first page, we're doing 1 and 3. That should, 2 should be numbered. Anyway, 1 and 3 and 5 so far. Alright, remember that your domain is your x values, looking left to right. So if I'm looking left, this keeps going down. Guys, focus. This keeps going down and left. You can keep doing that towards negative infinity. And then it keeps doing the same thing. It has arrows in both directions, so negative infinity to positive infinity. Or you can write it like x, p, r. Either one. For your range, you're looking lowest to highest. What's your lowest value?
Miss, what is x, e, r?
X is an element of all real numbers, so it means the same thing as x.
Oh.
Negative infinity, that would be your lowest. What's your highest? Y value? 0, 0, just 0. And that's going to be a square bracket. So negative infinity, it stops at 0.
So if you have an infinity, is it always square brackets?
Infinities are parentheses. This is a parenthesis. Or I could say this is everything below 0, so y is less than or equal to 0. So you could have written either of those and it would be fine. Question? Other questions on number 1? This is technically number 2. Did we make sure this one also? Yeah. This should have arrows at the top. Yours might have. So if I'm looking left to right, the furthest point to the left would be what? Negative infinity. It's going to keep going off that graph. And then it's going to go to positive infinity. Or you could write that way. Start at negative 2, square bracket. Where does it stop? What's the highest? Not for this one. So range is lowest to highest. And your lowest value is at negative. Depends on which way the graph is. Bless you.
Thank you.
Alright, for number 3, where it's constant, that's where it's just a straight line. It's not moving up, it's not moving down. So it starts at negative 6, this is open. So that's going to be parentheses. Stops at negative 1, that isn't open, so assume it's closed. Square bracket. If I said, where is this increasing, that would start at negative 1. And go to 1. It's increasing right here. Is it decreasing anywhere? So here, your x values aren't changing, so it's actually not decreasing there. Your x values have to change and your y values have to change in order for it to decrease. This would just be undefined. So you would not put that. But if you saw something like this, it was going down at an angle, then you could put that part. But it's not decreasing anywhere, so you would just put an A, doesn't exist, none. Here.
So for this one, you pick where it starts and then where it starts to increase?
So for this one, we're looking for constant. Constant was this. But for increase, I'll write that. it started at -1 and it stopped at 1.
Okay.
It does not decrease anymore. You don't. You can if you want. So increasing is where your x values are moving forward and your y values. Caleb, Jacob. Your decreasing is where your x values are moving forward and your y values are going back out. Right. Number 5. These are just asking the same thing, switching them. Interval notation is with your brackets and parentheses. Set builder notation looks like this. So if I wrote this in set builder notation, it's -infinity to 4. It's going to start off the same, curly bracket, x line. Jacob, go back to your seat. Curly bracket, x line, just like this one. And then would this be above 4 or below 4? Below 4. And because this is a parenthesis, that's going to be x less than 4. So you're just rewriting it into what it looks like. The other version of what it would look like. Other questions on this page? 4. Okay. So now this one's interval notation. We have x is greater than 1. So if I was thinking about that on a number line, I'm starting at 1. It's strictly greater than, so that's going to be a parenthesis, 1. Greater than 1, where would it stop? Also parentheses. So those are just switching between the two different types.
Number 5 is it? X, 1x.
So it looks just like this beginning part. Curly bracket, x, it's a vertical line. It's just a vertical line. On to the back. So section 1 is your domain, your range, your increasing, decreasing constant. 2 through 5 is your transformation stuff. So let's start section 2. This is writing the equation from the transformations. Which of those do we want to see you go over and have questions about? Up here. 4.
You number 1.
4. Okay, let's start there. If we have other questions, we'll do that. So we have to write the equation. Remember that your equation looks like, it's going to look like one of these two formats. F of x or y equals a. For your x squared, that's going to be parentheses, x minus h. Outside of those parentheses, squared plus k. For your absolute value, same thing, but absolute value not parentheses. And not squared. So it's going to be one of these two. For number 1, I see it's x squared, so I'm going to be using this first one. F of x equals. Translated 5 units left, reflected over the x-axis. This is going to be translated 5 units left is horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
So it's going to be on the inside. So that's going to be your h.
3 plus 5.
Plus 5, yes, on the inside. And then the reflected over the x-axis, is that vertical or horizontal? Vertical, because it's doing this. And that's going to be on the outside. That's going to be your A. How would I write that it's been reflected?
Negative.
Negative. You could put -1 or just a negative. Parentheses. Jacob said it's plus 5. That is correct. Remember, whatever you think it is, it moves left. It's in the negative, but it's actually going to be a plus because of the minus already in there. Do we have a k value? No. So that's it. Questions on that one before we do 4? Okay. Right, number 4, I see we're dealing with absolute values, so now we're using the second one. Stretch horizontally by a scale of 1/2. It tells you what it's doing. And then, so we know that's horizontal, we know it's going to be on the inside. This is actually going to go in front of the x, but we'll just know that it's inside. Reflected across the x-axis, we just did that one. That's going to be vertical. That's your A. Translated 12 units left, also similar to number 1. That's horizontal, inside, and that's your H. So this one, because of this, it's going to look a little different. F of x equals our negative. Then because of this part, we need that inside the absolute value, the 1/2. And then we're going to have parentheses to show this part. How would I write translated 12 units left? X plus 12. And then do I have a K? No. So if you see horizontally stretched or compressed by anything, that needs to go on the inside as well. But if you see vertically stretched or vertically compressed, that would go where your A is also. If you had a question, do you still have a question?
So when it has the x equals the square brackets,
The absolute value.
absolute value, that's when you use the second equation?
Mm-hmm. Other questions in that section? So that's taking your transformations and writing your equation. Next section, there's just to write the equation from the graph. Which of those or both do we want to see or do? This is what type of function? Quadratic or absolute value? Quadratic, that's your x squared. So think about where the parent function usually is if you need to in your calculator. Just type in x squared. Look at the table, graph the middle and the 5 points around it. Starts at 0, 0, goes up 1, right 1, 2, 4, negative 1, 1, negative 2, positive 4. That's your parent function. It looks like the distance is the same between the points. I probably should have done a different color. What changed?
Translated most of the right.
It did go shifted or translated. Both of those are fine. So that was a horizontal shift, right 1.
And vertical shift down 4.
Vertical shift down 4. Did it do anything else? Yes.
So for the first points that you plotted, where did you pick them?
This. If you put it in your calculator, I'm going to the table. So you have to know this function and then just use your calculator. So using those two, we're going to write the equations. It's going to be similar to this. Start off f of x equals, horizontal shift is going to be on the inside. Vertical shift is going to be on the outside. The vertical is going to be your k. The horizontal is going to be your h. Do we have an a value? No. Because the distance between the points didn't change. So you can put 1 or you can leave it blank. How would I say horizontal shift right 1? So how would I say horizontal shift right 1? So not plus 1, do the opposite of what you think. Minus 1. X minus 1. Inside the parentheses squared. And then vertical shift down 4. Do exactly what this says. Minus 4.
Do you have to write that or can you just write that?
You have to write the equation. You don't have to write these. And then you can always put that back in your calculator, double check it, do your points match. Questions on that one before we do this next one? This is quadratic or absolute value.
Absolute.
So that's your absolute value of x. If you need to know those points, again, in your calculator you can put alpha window, get your absolute value, put x in there, and go to your table. It's going to be similar. Start at 0, 0, up 1, right 1, and keep going, and same way the other way. Yes.
So for the absolute value, if it's a big kind of graph, is that when we use absolute value?
Yes. So looking at what the original was and what this looks like, what changed?
Stretch.
It did stretch. The distance is now not 1/2, but 2. The vertical stretch by 2. I did not spell that right. What else?
What's the right one? Translated right one.
Horizontal shift right.
Vertical shift down.
And vertical shift down. So vertical stretch, that's your A. This is H. This is K. We'll do these really quickly when we get back to lunch, but we will finish this one.
2.
So it'd be 2 times the absolute value of x minus 1. Outside of that, minus 3. You could graph that and double check to see does that match. Actually, we could do objective 4 really quickly because we have like a minute before. This is just what are your transformations? What 2 things happen here? It went not down but up. So that would be vertical shift up 5. What else did it do? That negative does what? Not a shift, but a not a stretch. Reflect. It's on the inside, so horizontal reflection or reflect over the y-axis. What happened in the second one?
It went up.
Didn't move up or down, there's no K. There's a horizontal shift. What direction? Left, 13. And then there was a vertical stretch. There was one more transformation for the second one. What was it? A beer. Yep. It is a reflection. Vertical reflection. Okay, and then you can either find the vertex and then graph it, or graph it and then find the vertex. Does not matter. Vertex is whatever the inside is, the opposite, so -2, and then whatever the outside is. Because I know this is an absolute value, and the only real transformation besides it moving to the left and upward, I'm right here. Yes, okay. It reflected. So the points are going to be the same. It's going to go, instead of up 1, right 1, down 1, left 1.
Don't speak.
And then do that twice.
What's cooking looking? Shipping bacon.
Or you could put that in your calculator. I'm going to put that in. Go to the table, find where your y values repeat, find the middle.
Which calculator number? 7 or 8? I'm 7.
There we go. So then here, and find the middle, which would be at -2, the vertex we found, and then plot some of those points. So either find the vertex and graph it, or graph it and find the vertex. Either way, write it down. Questions on that? Okay. Go put your phones up in a calculator pocket.